Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, January 16th, 2023. Yep, we're halfway through the month of January. And I just realized I have a couple extra lights on that I probably need to go turn off. A little too bright in the background. So, it is Monday. And I know there's been a bunch of auctions going on. There's been some crazy prices going on for some of these Corvettes and Chargers and all kinds of different things, and some of it is just absolutely ridiculous. I had an email from Michael earlier today that said a Daytona Charger sold for $1.4 million at the Mecum auction. $1.4 million for a Daytona Charger. What is going on? What is going on with these prices? Let me turn these lights off. I don't like these lights being on. Sorry about that. Hold on just a second. Need to fix it. It's got to be right. There we go. Take a victory lap around the Bronco and come back in. Anyway, man, some of this stuff is just ridiculous. I mentioned last week, we were talking about, I think it was last week, we were talking about a Suburban. No, not a Suburban. It was a Blazer that had super low miles on it that sold for a ton of money, which was just unheard of. Just unheard of. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people are trying to consider them investments at this point, really throwing the money into it and see what happens, or what. But man, it's just skyrocketing, some of these prices. So anyway, I hope everybody had a good weekend, a good week previously. I know I'm still working on the Bronco, trying to get some stuff done. I have another video coming up, part 4, and this one, it kind of went off the rails a little bit. I say that as I'm doing this kind of work, and y'all know, nothing ever seems to fit or work the way it should. And I'm working on a video. Basically, as I was starting to prep some things, and I like to do an overview, and y'all know I say it, test fit all the time, because it's true. You have to do those sort of things. And this Bronco, although it was built pretty well by another vendor, there were some issues, and some of those were dealing with the strikers for the doors, that go in the A B pillar. As I'm looking things over, and I always want to make sure, that's why I test fitted the brake pedal and the gas pedal and the parking brake, and I did the air box on the other side. It goes up above the cowl. I want to make sure these pieces fit, and I stress this. And you know what? Let me tell you, this was one of the difficult things. Let's go back a little bit in time. When I was working on the Brooklyn Pony, the convertible, right? I was very specific about how I wanted to approach that vehicle, and I was making requests for parts for that vehicle because I was actually getting pretty close to the paint process. And I told the owner, I said, I want to have all the trim parts, I want to have all these and this and that and the other, so that before I go to paint, I test fit all that stuff. Because once you're painted, it's too late. And this emphasizes my point with this. As I was going over this stuff, I found that the strikers, the plate assembly, for one, you could put a striker on it, but you could not actually adjust it. It was kind of like barely moving. And I found that this one on the driver's side, somebody had worked on. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing, but they had cut it loose, repositioned it, and made it worse, in my opinion. I don't know. The other side was messed up too. I had to fix that one, but the driver's side was 3 times as bad as the passenger side. So as I'm doing that, I'm looking things over, and again, this will be the next video because I gotta share this stuff. The flanges, the pinch weld where these panels attach, you got the A pillar and the B pillar where they mate. The gasket wouldn't fit. because the flanges on the B pillar are too deep. You couldn't put the gasket on all the way. And so I had to get some measurements, and I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, who is doing the quality check on this stuff? If somebody's building these bodies, there should be a checklist, right? In my opinion, if I were to build one of these, I would have to verify all of that stuff. I would have measurements of those locations. I may even have gaskets and different pieces that I can put on there and go, okay, that fits. Check that off. The owner doesn't have to worry about fighting with that later. This fits. Check that off. This doesn't fit. Fix it. You know, there should be some sort of a checklist. Let's even call it a flow chart where you go, oh, does the seal fit? No. Why or why not? Well, this is wrong. Fix it. Just fix it. Anyway, that's kind of been my week working on this stuff, going, why is this wrong? Why is that wrong? Okay, I'm going to step off my horse for a second. Step off my platform just for a second. We'll see who has shown up. So right off the top, Terry Keithley, evening everyone in Barrie. Please hit the thumbs up and like button. Thank you kindly. Yes, by all means, hit that like button. Let YouTube know we're doing this. Let people know that there is involvement, right? That's how the traction develops and it grows. Rick Stevenson, good evening, everyone. Glad you're here, Rick. And by the way, you get a little bell for showing up. How about that? Just one of my perks I offer. Lynn H, hello. Hello, Lynn. Glad you're here. Rick Gain, hello, everyone. It may be cold, but I'm still going to have ice cream during the stream. Well, yeah. Okay. I'm with you on that. Glad you're here. Greg's Workshop is checking in from Australia. Howdy, Greg. Glad you're here. Troy Justit. Good evening, all. Love the truck on the opening. Good choice. Well, thank you, Troy. That was one I spotted at a car show. Really sharp truck. Really, really sharp truck. Robert checking in. Evening, all. Beautiful spring here in Texas. Mid-70s today and tomorrow. I'm dreading summer already. Glad you're here, Robert. Yeah, wait. There we go. Yeah, if you're already having spring, you're going to be hating summer. I'll say that. Scott Leach, first time live. Well, awesome. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to look at your thumbnail. Is that a Studebaker? I can't tell for sure. You have to let me know. I can't pull up your picture any larger than it is right there. So, if it is, you get another bell. Steve Grimes, good evening all from South Central PA. Glad you're here, Steve. Crash Rider from cold and wet Southern Indiana. Good evening, everyone. Be sure to hit the like button. Yes, you get 2 bells for that. Scott is saying wet 60s in Arizona. Well, that's okay. That's okay. 60s is good. Dawn's Manufacturer. Hello, folks. Hey, we had 15 minutes of sun today at 50 degrees. Well, 15 minutes is better than none, right? Oh, by the way, I didn't leave a comment on your video, Don. That hole you cut in, for your hood scoop, or the hole you maybe enlarged or modified slightly for the hood scoop in the induction setup. I really like that idea, taking that metal tubing. If you haven't seen Don's video on that, he's done some cool stuff on Betsy, his Mustang, and really like some of the trick things he has done with his experience and knowledge of the car and what he wants it to do and all those sort of things. Even back to all the bracing we talked about, where you added the extra 1-inch square tubing here and there and everywhere. Really, really great ideas. So, Dawn, you get another bell for ingenuity. Chris, just pit stopping by. Have to work tonight. That's too bad, Chris. Glad you're here. Chris is up in the Great White North. Rick, 1989 K5 Blazer sold for $85,000. Yes. Yeah, and you know what? He'll probably flip it. He'll probably make some more money. Ray, hello, Barry and crew. Hope everyone's doing well. Glad to be here after missing a couple weeks. Glad you're here, Ray. Glad you're back. Hope all is well with you. EJ McConaughey. Good evening, all from West Georgia. Glad you're here, EJ. Dave Britton checking in. Hello, all. Also from the Great White North. Glad you're here, Dave. Hope all is well with you. Steve's Money Pit. Barry was thinking you bought the Daytona. Thumbs up for Daddy. Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. Bob Knoll. Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is doing fine. Glad to hear, Bob. Hope you're doing well. Don's Manufactory. A 66 Shelby GT350 sold for $300,000 on BAT. BAT. I don't know if that's Barrett Jackson or not, but yeah, 66 Shelby, $300,000. Mr. Mikey, good evening to all in this group. Sunny and warm in southern Texas. Spent the day powder coating engine bay parts. Nice. That's a positive thing. Glad you're getting some work done. Lightning Rod checking in from PA for a weekly Joe Daddy therapy session. Glad you're here, Rod. Roger, Hindsight 6'7", greetings next door, back from the holidays and the Chili Bowl. Yes. He got to go to the Chili Bowl and watch racing all week. All week. That's a lot of racing. Mike Wencho, good evening. Mike from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland rocks. Glad you're here, Mike. Steve, people just assembling their part. They don't need finished product. Yes, that's pretty accurate. I don't know. It's just like the Dynacorn. We talked about this before, the Dynacorn bodies that you can buy. From what I've heard, everybody that's ever had one, they've had to cut things back off, reposition them, and put them back on in the right place. It shouldn't be that way. If you're spending that kind of money on one of those things, you should be able to put your wiring harness in it, paint it, put some seats in it, throw an engine in, and drive it. And suspension and all that other stuff too. But it should be, you shouldn't have to fight with everything. Robert, have been having my own issues with fitment of stuff screwing up a video. Yes. Yeah. And I think you showed me some pictures of that, and that was dealing, I think, with the suspension parts that you're fighting with. Unfortunately, I hope they get that resolved. Scott says that's a 53 Ford F100. Okay. Well, yeah, I can't, it's really hard to see because that picture is like that big on my screen. But I'll give you a bell for that. Anyway, that's cool. Cool truck. Rod says Scott Leach, love that truck. Dave Conville checking in. Good evening, all. Glad you're here, Dave. Hope you're getting some work done on the Model A. Scott says thanks. Okay. Dave Britton says, oh, bring a trailer. Okay. Sorry about that. BAT, bring a trailer. I missed it. And Aaron also. Thank you, Aaron. Rick says maybe you could mass produce your boat trailer frame jig and sell them to Dynacorn. Maybe it may help them. It may. What's interesting when you talk about stuff like that, I considered the idea of what would I need to build one of these bodies? Other than the parts, right? You need some sort of jig. And I was researching the idea of the bed liner stuff and how you apply it and different things like that. And I found some, I don't know what the name of the site was, what the YouTube channel was. Maybe MPI or something like that. Anyway, they had a Bronco in there, and they were doing that same kind of work. And I started looking at their videos, and I thought, well, let me glean. There you go. There's a word today. Glean some information from their videos just to see what they're doing. And they painted, or they put together a Bronco. They painted it. There wasn't a lot of good information. It was just kind of an overview, in my opinion, the way they were doing things. But one of the videos dealt with the bed liner, spraying that in. And they did have some insight onto how to mix it, and they showed masking and spraying it. But unfortunately, I saw that when they did that, they didn't add any seam sealer, which I think is critical in overall effect of even if you're painting, there should be seam sealer inside this thing. But I didn't see any seam sealer. I saw gaps where they were spraying this stuff, and I don't know if they were hoping that by spraying it, it would cover the gap. I don't know. But anyway, so I got some information from that video that I can use. But then I looked, and there was another video where they posted building a frame jig for a Bronco. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me look at that. Maybe I can get some, information. And all they did, it might have been like a time lapse thing. They basically just laid out all this metal on the floor and welded it all together. No measurements, no information, just them welding it together. I'm like, well, that's pointless. Anybody you could have welded a table together. It would have been the same effect. But I was hoping that they had done some information, as to how their frame jig was made, but didn't happen. But anyway, if I get the chance, maybe someday, I don't know, I think I would like to build one of these. And looking at them, they are, I'm going to say, relatively simple, even compared to the Mustang. There's not a lot of complicated parts on this. Now that doesn't mean you don't have, you need to have. That doesn't mean you can't have the measurements right. You got to have stuff built to the right, dimensions. But there's not a lot of complex things in that body. Overall, just my opinion. Let's see, Lynn. Everything these days needs to be manipulated to work. Yes, that is true. That is true. But again, I default back to the idea that if somebody's building these things and this is their livelihood, it shouldn't be something that the next guy has to fix before it even gets painted. Or let's just say I just played dumb and I painted this thing. Just paint it. Yeah, okay, fine. Looks great. Here you go. Pay up. See ya. And then the owner gets it back and starts trying to assemble it and says, hey, this doesn't fit. Hey, this doesn't fit. Hey, this doesn't fit. And I'm like, well, you didn't pay me to make it right. But the reality is I have that responsibility. Even if it's somebody else's work, I'm still going to look at it. I'm still going to make sure things are right, because once it's painted, you're done unless you're going to repaint stuff. And we know how I feel about that. Jerry, hi Barry, howdy y'all. It's cold here in Northeast Ohio. I want to go back to Texas, even if that means I have to deal with Mr. Grumpy. At Mike Winchell, I'm actually in Mentor currently. Okay. Glad you're here, Jerry. Enjoy that snow. Yeehaw. Dave Britton and Barry, have you ever done some numbers to see how much a body costs completed versus buying the parts and putting it together yourself? It would be interesting to know. I have not actually crunched the numbers because, for one, the prices keep changing. Now, I've looked at independent parts somewhat. I think like a floor pan for a Mustang is like $3,500 now, I think. And somebody had looked up I think somebody had done the pricing on that, and to buy the parts, maybe it was like $1,200 or something. So to me, if I have my jig figured out, that's a pretty easy one. Buy the $1,200 in parts, I weld it all together, then I sell it for, I don't know, $2,500. And here you go. Here's your floor pan. Come get it. Next. But no, I have not done a complete build out on the parts. I have not. Good question, though. Troy, we all know that the sheet metal we buy will need to be adjusted to fit properly. I have never came across a part that fits right out of the box. I have one part that I will say fits right out of the box. Unfortunately, we can't get them anymore that I know of. And that was the original tooling tail panels for the 65 and 66 Mustang. Yeah, pretty much right out of the box. The other part that I've had almost zero problem with was when I built the black Camaro, or rebuilt the black Camaro, the 68. I had quarter panels, tail panel, deck filler, and I think wheelhouses from Auto Metal Direct. And those almost just fell onto the car in the right position. So I'll give them credit for that. AMD does a great job of making parts that fit for the most part. Now, there may be some variances or things out of whack at this point. I don't know, but I know from my experience in the past, those parts fit the car fantastic. So, but all this stuff that's made in the bulk industry of Mustang parts, you're right. It's most everything is off for sure. Rick, what I have a feeling that Bronco's not going to leave your garage until it's as nice as Jade, and in and out and running. Well, it's not going to be. I don't. That's not the plan. I can tell you that. It's not going to be running. It's still going to be just the paint. It's still going to be just the paint. Another thing that, well, I mean, I'm going to make it nice. I will. I'm going to take care of some things. It's got to be right, or I don't sign off on it. But another thing that is a difficulty right now is these temperatures. I wish I had the temperature Robert has, because then paint wouldn't be an issue. When I painted the dash and stuff last week, and it was rough because I had issues getting enough heat and or airflow at the same time to make the parts dry out and look good. Now we're back in a kind of a temperature drop. I know it wasn't too bad this afternoon, and I think, well, let's see what it says here. We're going to have highs over the next day or so, or a few days, 62, 67, 68, and then back into the 50s for highs. And that really makes it a challenge when you're trying to spray out paint. It just, it can be such a hassle. So that's another difficulty. But no, it's not going to be a turnkey vehicle when it leaves, but it'll be good. James, hi. What tranny is in the Bronco? I don't have that information. The owner's putting all that in, and I think he's putting an EFI engine out of a Mustang or Explorer or something. So probably whatever is compatible in that lineup. So I don't know for sure. Leonard, hey Leonard. Oh, sorry, James. I missed a bell for you too. Thank you, James. Evening, all. How's everybody doing? We're doing good. Glad to hear from you, Leonard. How's the temperature out in the desert? I know you've had much better weather than we have, I think. Terry Keithley, Barry, bro, you're in denial. You're going to get carried away. It will look as good as Jade. Carry on. Please don't drive me down that road. Please don't drive me down that road. Yeah, I don't want to be at that level. And the owner doesn't want me to be at that level. But it's difficult. It is difficult, because times are tough. There's things going on that make, things difficult. So time for some coffee. Sorry, just a little information post there. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to be at that level. I know in my mind that's where I am though, because I need to have straight lines and tight gaps and so I'm really trying not to. I still got to look good though. Still got to look good. Rick, just letting you know I have my ice cream. Okay. That sounds good. I'm going to have to get some of that later. Dawn, 68 would be a blessing. I've been doing barely okay panel painting. Yeah, and it's difficult. I sprayed the dash. I resprayed the dash, honestly, because it had runs in it. I showed that in the video. And I started working on them, and I was like, I gotta redo it. So I sanded it, cleaned it up, and then reshot it. And it turned out much, much better. But it was difficult because the air, trying to keep because I just painted that piece by itself, I was trying to limit the amount of airflow because I wanted to keep the heat up. But in the meantime, that just left a cloud of white, Wimbledon white floating around, and it wouldn't dissipate. So I had to be really careful with how I was doing that. But it did turn out much, much better. Those runs are now gone. Leonard says cold, windy, and stormy. Oh, that's not good. Speaking of, let me let you know. We had storms come through last week. I'm not sure exactly if it was over the weekend, Thursday. I don't remember exactly. We had some big storms come through. I think there's some videos out there. Highway 16 is south of us, and they apparently had massive trees knocked over all over the highway. There's some videos out there, and there was some friends tell me there's 2 golf courses down there that are all the holes are damaged. Like all these trees are knocked over this golf course and all these different things. But we had some trees locally that came down. In fact, we had one. Just Roger had asked me previously when he was out on his trip if there was any damage. And I didn't see anything. Well, there was a pretty good sized tree. Basically, either it's right on the property line or whatever. But it was a big pine tree that snapped off. And I didn't even realize this till I just happened to walk to the backyard, and I saw like a 20-foot section of basically dead pine laying parallel to the back of the shop, the paint booth area, laying parallel. And then I looked and I'm like, where did that come from? And I looked back further and there's still about 30 feet up. This is where the tree had snapped off, and it was falling directly towards the shop, and it hit enough trees on its way down that it deflected it like around the back of the shop, so it did not hit the shop. But there's been a lot of people wiped out in south of us and the eastern part of the state. Lots of bad stuff going on. So I hope the storms aren't anything like that, Leonard. And I know, of course, there's been some crazy stuff going on the California coast, storm cyclones coming in and causing all kinds of problems. So anyway, just a little message on our status here. Mr. Mikey, any video coming on spray-on truck bedliner? Yes, there will be. There will be a video. I was debating on how I wanted to do this, and after watching that other guy do their Bronco, I was kind of like trying to figure out my sequence, right? Because I haven't really done that before. We sprayed at the body shop years ago. We did the underside of vehicles. That's a different animal, right? So I was looking at what can I do in this process. And these people, they had painted the vehicle and then masked that off and then did the spray bed liner. And that makes sense to me. Initially, I was thinking I'll do the spray bed liner, mask it off, and then paint it. But it makes more sense to do it the other way around. That way you know you got your coverage right. So you can, when you spray the paint, you can have it come in underneath where the bed liner is going to be, and then the bed liner will overlap that, so you end up with a clean line. So anyway, yeah, there's going to be a bit of video coming on that. Brad, awesome, man. Brad says, love your channel, keep it up. You got me with the Steelers clothing and then the Shelby clothing, but the Brandon stuff tops it. Thanks for doing this. Glad you're here, Brad. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I think you know where I stand on that stuff. Troy, here in East Georgia, we are always about 10 to 20 degrees higher than you are out west. If I could help you out, I would. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get the temperature here. The problem overall is I wanted to have this really close to done by the end of this month. I'm still aiming for that, but I don't know that I'll be able to get there. So that's going to kind of slow down some other stuff that I have lined up. But hey, it's what you deal with. Terry, you can't help it. You're programmed that way. Yeah, I really. It is difficult. It is difficult. I struggle with that all the time. All the time. I got to have it just right. Just right. Rick, follow suit with everybody else on the internet. Put that LS motor you have laying around in the Bronco. Yeah, that, or you put the Coyote engine in, right? It seems to be the go-to now. Rod, if it's worth doing right. That's a curse. You're absolutely right on that. It is a curse. It is a curse. That a lot of that. Well, I could say a lot of it has to do with just me, but also with my background. when you work on airplanes for 30 years, you make sure things are right. They have to be. You're counting on people are counting on you to be safe when they're out flying, right? I'll bring up some instances. I don't know if you saw this or not, and I don't know what happened, but there was an incident this past weekend in Nepal. Something happened. There was an airplane landing at some new airport over there, and there's a video out there where the thing like caught on fire on landing, and it just flipped over and crashed, and of course everybody died. Now I don't know what happened. I really don't, and I hope it wasn't some incident where somebody had worked on it and failed to do their job. But it's sad immensely to think about these people that are out, on a vacation or whatever, and they're just trying to get somewhere, and the plane crashes. That weighs on every one of us that ever worked or works on aircraft. It does. I'm telling you. We think about that probably more than anybody else. The flying public, they see it as a hazard. They do. But when we're doing it, we just know we have to do the job and do it right. And so all that stuff is just mentally hammered into my head, and it's really hard to do it any other way. Yeah, it is a curse at times. Rick Stevenson, 54 here in Jacksonville. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I don't know what the current temperature isn't too bad outside. It's 51 right now. 51. Simone checking in. Hi Barry and all. Hope you all are well. Glad you're here, Simone. Thank you for checking in. Let's see. Dave Britton, your insurance company for the win. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to have to rebuild the back of the shop. Really don't want to do that. Dawn, I'll do Betsy's undercoat after paint and assembly. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Rick, another retired aircraft mechanic, is in the 65-66 Mustang restoration group, was talking about how you have to be a perfectionist. And it is so true. It is so true. I showed this, and this will be in my video that I'm coming up with, but as I'm working on this striker deal on the Bronco, again, I was saying, you could just, hey, I don't see it, I'm just going to paint it and let it go, blah, 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 blah. But here's a couple things. So as I'm working on it, I start really looking at it a little harder. And this is the striker. This is the mount plate. Now it's obvious somebody has worked on this. It's been sanded. I don't know if that shop makes their own. I really don't know. But it's been sanded on both sides, right? And I don't know if this came on the B-pillar. You would think it would come with it. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe they have to put these on separate or salvage them from the old. I don't know. But what got me, one of the things, I don't know if I can show this very well. If I line this up and I center up the holes, you probably can't see it very well. But if I center up the hole, the holes are off. Like, how do you do that? There's a measurement. You've got a striker plate. What's the measurement from the center of point A to point B? Replicate that. It's not that hard. And the other thing, and this really just drove me crazy. This really drove me crazy. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but let me see if maybe that way will work better. Can you see that? Can you see that? Yeah, I'm holding that as square level as I can. Can you see those bolts? Who does that? How in the world? And they're also off this direction. Like if I hold that as close as I can, they're off in two different directions. And the hole centers are off. Now again, think about that. If I had just not paid attention to it and painted it all up and the owner gets it And he's like, I can't even get the bolts in the plate, first of all. Secondly, I can't adjust it at all. And thirdly, they're at an angle. So it's like, anyway, torture for me. Torture. Let's see. Robert, still 70 out here in the shop. Oh, that would be so nice. It really would. Don, I used to have that argument when I was teaching auto mechanics. What? 75% is a passing grade. Okay, when we work on your car, which wheel do you want to fall off? Valid point. Let me tell you this. This is the truth. At least it was. I don't know if the rules have changed. When I went to A&P school up in Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics, right? 21-month course, 7 quarters, and you had to pass everything. There was no gray area. If I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do, to get an A on a test up there on that course, it was either, if I remember, it was a 99 or 100 was an A, and 96 to 98 was a B. 93 to 95 was a C, and then 90 to 92 was basically failing, a D. That's how tight the grading system was. I mean, that's literally how tight this system was. And you look today, and I can't say this about any other, like the A&P school. I hope they didn't change it. But have you seen what they're doing with the standards now? Like if you go to school, they're like a 60% is a C now. I think is what it was. I think it's 60. And they've lowered the standard so much that the kids aren't pushing to get good grades anymore. They're not learning things. I just saw another thing where a school was pulling the awards for a graduation or something for the academic kids who were like scoring really high and had achievements, right? So they get awards for that sort of thing. And the school was pulling those awards because they didn't want anybody to feel left out. They didn't want to feel like, they were worried about somebody's feelings rather than thinking about what that means to everybody else. So when you lower the standards, pretty soon you don't have anybody reaching for the standard, or you don't have anybody reaching for the stars. You just drop that level so much that everybody's like, well, I don't even have to try. I could just get a C and just breeze through. I don't have to learn anything. But that's what you run into. Same thing with this teaching thing. You have a passing grade that has been lowered and lowered and lowered, and the kids, a lot of them know that, well, I don't even have to study. I can answer half the questions and still pass. Who cares? So they're taking away the idea of rewards for people who actually achieve and want to excel. Not everybody can be an astronaut. Not everybody can be a doctor. Not everybody can be mechanical engineer or whatever. But you have to have those people that want to strive to get there. Otherwise, we're hurting. And I think we're seeing that now. There's a lot of people that just can't. They're not interested. They're like, well, I don't care. I just make it through life as is. Anyway, let me step off that soapbox for a second. Steve didn't catch fire till it crashed. Pilot changed 180 to runway banked so hard and stalled plane. Actually, the video, I saw a video from a cell phone. A video from a cell phone. And the plane was on fire. The right wing was on fire. If we're talking about the one in Nepal, yes. I saw the video. And it was a cell phone. Like somebody had they had their phone out and they were thinking, well, look at that. Got a new airport. Look at a plane coming in. And it just happened to be filming this thing. Right side caught on fire, and it turned and nosedived back into the ground. Yeah. So it was pretty scary. Simone, that's quite some wheel clearance. Oh yeah, on the Bronco. Yeah. You're right about that. Rod, if you pay attention to the small details, the finished product comes out much better. I agree with that 100%. Rick, if the fallen tree required you to rebuild the shop, it would be your chance to make it bigger. There's always a win in every situation. Yeah, there may be, maybe. There's also rules and stuff that has to be followed. Because the city wants to inspect everything, and I don't want to get them involved if I don't have to. Ray, man, who in the world tapped those holes? I know it. How do you do that? Just how? I mean, lighting rod says looks like holes I drilled. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing too. If you, I mean, I guess you could drill the hole. Well, no, they actually drilled the holes crooked too, because you can run your tap crooked. That's pretty easy to do. But yeah. Leonard, looks like a weekend hangover job. Yeah, could very well be. Steve's Money Pit, 40 degrees and foggy in Wisconsin. Wisconsin. Wait a minute. What are you doing in Wisconsin? Aren't you up in Pennsylvania normally? Rod, we've lowered the bar. If education is free, why work to better yourself? That's pretty much it. And it's so sad. It is so sad. Don't get off the soapbox. Okay. Ray, sadly, that's what's happening everywhere in all classes, officially dumbing down the future of this country. It is. And, it's like the whole participation trophy. Hey, you get a trophy for showing up, playing soccer. My kids, I know we had that. I did not like that. When my kids were growing up, they said, oh, well, everybody gets a trophy at the end of the season, no matter how good you did. What? That's like going to a car show and everybody gets first place. Yeah. Everybody gets a first place trophy. Here you go. You get a sticker now. Everybody gets a first place sticker. You got first place. First place for you. You get a little sticker. Put it on your shirt. Yay. You overachiever. Lynn, the cost of classic vehicles is up because the new car quality is a major concern right now. That is why I purchased my 67 Mustang. I wanted a new Mustang, but I'm not rolling the dice on a new car. Well, I get that. Steve, well, now I could get 50% and still pass. I struggle for 70% in non-shop classes. Yeah, and I mean, I'm a kid of the 70s, right? 70s, graduated in the 80s. And I'm not saying school was easy, let's say. I mean, I studied and I did all those sort of things. And I got good grades. I really did. I was on the honor roll and all that stuff. But now it's like they're just making it, hey, he showed up today. Give him a sticker. Check mark. Move on. In fact, what was it? I was watching last night or night before. The great classic movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High came on. And it's like we're creating Spicolis. We're creating Spicolis now. Hey, yeah, I'm just going to breeze through your class, Mr. Hand. Yeah. Dave Britton, I find it generally takes more time to do it wrong than just doing it right the first time. Yeah. We had a line we would use at the body shop. And there's never time to do it right, but there's always time to do it twice. Mr. Mikey, no drill press done by hand. That is probably very accurate. I would agree with that. But you could, and the thing is, I didn't even get them centered with the holes in the striker. Robert, I was just reminded the battery in my emergency light in the shop is bad. It's pitch black in there when the power just went out. Oh, okay. I don't even have an emergency light in my shop. You're just bragging now. Dawn, not using the proper tools, most likely those striker bolts. Yeah. Ray Buckman, you're absolutely correct, Barry. Yes. And Rick, 38 degrees in New Jersey right now, going down to 27 tonight. Yeah, we've had definitely had some chilly weather. Rick, I went to a car show. They say they make sure everybody gets a trophy. I left my trophy there before driving away that night. See, that's what I'm talking about. Why in the world? You know, I mean, I get it. Um, here's an example. My the Model A, my grandfather's Model A that I have. The My grandfather bought that in '58. My dad drove that car to high school. He and my mom went on their first date in this car. I gave a big history of it. I have videos of it on the channel. But when I was taking that car apart, I found something inside the car, and it was a little placard. Little placard. Now I can't remember the exact year on that placard, but it was a little piece of metal with a screen print or whatever on it, and it was for a fireman's parade up in Pennsylvania. That my dad or my grandfather drove this car in that fireman's parade, and it has a date on it, and it's either in the '60s or early '70s. I don't remember which. Probably in the '60s, more than likely. '68 comes to mind, but I think it might be earlier than that. It might be '63. But anyway, the point being, you participated in the parade. Here is your commemorative plate. So you can put this. People would take that stuff and they would have maybe a panel on the wall and they would nail those things onto the wall. And just to have like these things, I participated in this parade. That's cool. Those are neat things because it has a time on it. It has an event. And it shows that the people that were in that parade got one of those. It wasn't just handed out to everybody. And that particular plate, I glued it to the dash on the Model A. I used whatever it was, emblem adhesive or something, and I glued it to the dash because I wanted that to be part of that history of the car. So I can see if you go to a car show or something and they say, hey, here's a event thing, like maybe it is just a sticker. It says, hey, we had a car show at so-and-so. I could see that. But the awards need to go to the people who have the meet the whatever requirement they have. The most accurate car of that era, or the best whatever, best to show, and all those different things. But that's the way it should be. The people that put in the effort, I say this kind of loosely because some people put in the effort by just throwing money at it. Here you go. And they buy that car and they go win trophies. But I like the idea that whoever has that car did the work to it. That's why I look at it, hoping that they actually did the work on the car. And if they win best of show, good for them. But if everybody gets a trophy for showing up, not the same thing. Not the same thing. Rod, we now have esports classes in schools, gaming versus shop class. So much for hands-on experience. Yeah. No. Bob, I have 2 fire extinguishers in my shop. Well, that's a plus. I think I have 4 sitting here. Of course, they're all in the same spot, so that really doesn't help if the fire's like right next to them. Scarlet Fire, LOL, if you pay enough to get in this show, everyone gets a plastic cup. So stupid. Yeah. Glad you're here, Scarlet. I haven't seen you before, so glad you're here. Steve, no, in Wisconsin, that tapping looks like what the owners did where I worked on installing equipment. I had to follow him and redo everything without customers seeing it. It was done wrong the first time. Okay. Well, yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking of the other Steve is in Pennsylvania. Sorry, got you confused. I think it's Steve Grimes. Steve Grimes is up in Pennsylvania. Shane, participation trophies send the wrong message to those who work harder. Doesn't make sense. Yep. Yeah, it's just yeah. And I don't know how we fix it. We need to have people that want to achieve. We need to have people that want to be the next whatever, neurosurgeon, scientist in the field, whatever. We need those people. and you keep lowering the standards. It's like there's a thing called what is it, Chat GPT or something like that. I think it's an app you can get on your phone or whatever. And apparently, you can put in some parameters, and this thing works with the internet, and it can give you, let's say, an essay. So you give it some parameters. You want to write an essay on Winnie the Pooh and a tiger shark. This thing will research the internet and create an essay using those parameters, and it's like all ready to go. And it does it in like, I think they said like 3 seconds. And it's all printed, or not printed, I mean, it's all, everything's done, grammatically correct, all the punctuation is correct. And what people are doing now is like, hey, I need a term paper. I need to write it on the effects of solar flares on gray squirrels in South America. Boom, this thing will write this essay or this term paper. These people are just printing it off and going, here you go, teacher. Here you go. I did all the hard work. I put it in the Chat GPT. You know, I had to download an app to get that. Give me my sticker. That's what it's coming to. These kids aren't even doing the work anymore. At all. Steve, I thought the cell phone was the emergency light. Oh, yeah, there you go. Dawn, I screwed off too much for good grades. Turned out okay, I guess. Well, you don't have to be, you know, what was it? Caddyshack? I love this line. You got to love it. Caddyshack. Judge Smales talking to the kid. And he says, you know, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. And the judge looks at him and says, well, the world needs ditch diggers too. This is true. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a rocket scientist. You know, we need everybody in these roles, but we don't need 10 million ditch diggers. We don't, whatever the number is. Nothing against ditch diggers, but we need the people that are engineering and designing and fabricating. We need those levels of people as well. So, I mean, I don't consider myself any kind of rocket surgeon, but I can get stuff done. My son is a mechanical engineer, and by golly, he can figure out all kinds of stuff. He can show me some math, and I'm like, I'll let you do it. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. Now, I have world experience, hands-on experience, but that only pays off in some cases. In many cases, you need to have the guys who understand the physics behind how things work. Dawn, the All Ford Picnic gives out a small plate with date and event for paying admission. See, that I'm okay with that. It gives you something that commemorates the event, not just here's a trophy for you. Scarlett, little kid sports, no keeping score, might hurt someone's feelings. You know, that's another thing. Yeah, they're talking about doing that. Oh, we don't keep score. We just run around for an hour. What? I guarantee you the parents are keeping score. Somebody's keeping score. But, you know, to not give the kids a sense of pride in physical abilities is wrong. There's a lot of things just going way off the rails. Just what I'm saying here, right here. Lots of things going wrong right now. Anyway, Robert, my emergency light was one I salvaged from a restaurant remodel. Going to order new ones. I want some of those solar batteries you have. Okay. Yeah. Troy, you and me, Dawn, it all works out in the end. Did great in college. Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, I'm a tradesman. I really am. I'm just a tradesman. Now, granted, I have my life experience working on mechanical stuff, cars, understanding a lot of things is huge. So I have that advantage over lots of people. I realize that. And not everybody can will have that. They can't. You know, they didn't grow up with a junkyard in their backyard and played with cars every day. I get that. But when it comes down to it, I'm still just just a trade worker. I'm not some college professor by any means. Steve, my wife was devastated if she got a 99%. I was a lot more flexible as long as I passed. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You'd see those numbers on your grades, and it's like, and I know I used to do a lot of math. I talked about this before. I've taken some math tests, and I actually skipped classes because I was able to pass their exam on the first try. I probably couldn't do it now because I don't remember the formulas and all that sort of stuff that I used to know. But whenever you have that opportunity, in my case, to take the test and skip 3 months of classes, I'm going to take advantage of that. Now, that particular test I scored I think he said you had to score a 90, I think, or something like that to pass the test. I took the test and I scored like a 92. And he's like, "Okay, you did it." And I was like, I was actually like, "What did I do wrong? I want to know what I missed." And the guy's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You passed the test." I said, "No. I need to know what I missed." And the funny part was, he reviewed the test, and he was looking at it, and he said, "Yeah, this answer is wrong." And I said, "Wait a minute, why is that wrong?" He said, "Well, that's not the answer." And I said, "Well, let's just look at it." And so we ended up going through it, and I had taken it like to a different level of answer. It was a correct answer, but it was a different level. And he looks at it and he says, "I've never had anybody do that before." "You're right. You got a 94 or 96 or whatever it was." So I get that idea. Like, oh, something's not right. What did I miss? Leonard, my Mercy Light is free light from Harbor Freight. I got one right by the door. Does it still work? I don't know. Yep. Look at that. It still works. Yep. I guess that's my Mercy Light too. Rick, in 2015, I was at a show, a brand new F-150 won Best in Show. It was a 2015 F-150. That's wrong. That's just wrong. Right, wrong. Dawn says, a student of mine is using Chat GPT to create curriculum. I looked it over and found it lacking a lot. Okay. Well, I know that what I'm hearing about that is that Chat GPT is learning. From what they're saying, they're going to it learns as it goes and it improves. So it may be getting better because of the failures that it's had. Shane, a lot of today's youth expect to live off their Uncle Sam. Well, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Mr. Mikey, I want the A student doctor working on my ticker, not the D achiever with pre-printed term papers. Exactly. Yeah. Bob, ditch diggers make good money. Yes, they do. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with it. Just like all the stuff we have in life, people will go, "Oh, he's a garbage collector." Garbage collectors make good money. And it's not always about, sometimes it's not about what money you make. Sometimes it's about your satisfaction with the job. We all know that. So I'm not, believe me, I do not look down on ditch diggers or any of those people. You look at the trade industry, HVAC people, they're making a killing off of this stuff right now. Plumbers, all those people that make the world tick are making money. Not so much the guy that's flipping fries. Yeah, not so much. Bob Shoemaker, pardon me, late again, but made it. Glad you're here, Bob. Yeah, Shane says he's talking to Bob Knoll. Rick, everybody has to remember the song 40 Hour Week by Alabama. I may have to look that up. I probably have heard it, but I can't quote it. Ray Buckman, sadly, the only class I ever failed was a weightlifting class, gym class. I am glad I grew up in the 60s, early 70s. We learned stuff. Yeah. If you look at stuff like, I know we had a woodworking shop at our school. We had a metal shop at our school. And I actually went to a Votech school. When I was my 3 years of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, I went to a Votech school, and I learned carpentry. I did. I learned cabinet making and construction. Have I used it? Well, not so much the cabinet making, but I did, learn the construction. That's how this garage got built. Or most anything I do now, it's all me just figuring it out and doing it. But we need to have those trade industries. That's why I appreciate Mike Rowe so much for what he does. He's pushing for the trades so much. Rick, I run into a lot of folks that have the book knowledge but don't know what end of the screwdriver to use. And you're right, and that is very accurate. And I'm not picking on my son. He's a mechanical engineer. Mechanical engineer, if you look it up, it doesn't mean what you think it means. When you say mechanical, it talks about mechanical functions of buildings, the HVAC, the plumbing, whatever. It's that sort of mindset. But a mechanical engineer has a broader scope for engineering, right? But does he struggle with tools? Yeah, he does. But it's not his thing. It's not his thing. And I get that. Brian, hi everyone. Brian checking in from, I guess, North Idaho. Glad you're here, Brian. Dave Britton, Barry, was your dad very skilled? I'm going to say yes. He was, he still comes up with ideas in his head for different things. But his background was, of course, automotive stuff. But he was also a heavy construction carpenter. So like concrete forms, sidewalks and buildings, he did all that stuff. That was his normal day job. And the junkyard was his side thing. But what's interesting is I can't tell you how many things my dad designed and built. He would have an idea, and he would go through the process. He might build something just to prove he could do it, and I've done this as well, just to prove he could do it, and then never use it again. I've seen him do it with a variety of things. One of the coolest things was he built this forklift. He built a forklift out of I don't know exactly what size the truck was, but it was a he used a frame, straight frame from like a 5-ton truck, let's just say, straight frame, and he put on this thing. It had a 6-cylinder engine, and if I remember all the parameters, he used he built a structure on the front, and he used a set of forks from a tractor. So you had the fork sticking up. You had like the lift mechanism from a tractor. Had that on the front, and I'm trying to remember exactly how he laid it out. But it had a 6-cylinder engine, and he put 2 transmissions in it. So it had one transmission coming off the engine. It had a second transmission coming off of that engine, or off of that one, connected to the tail shaft. The reason for that was he wanted it to be low speed, like a forklift. It doesn't move fast. So you could put it in first or first second or whatever it was, and you could move it really slow. And the engine, he built his seat over top of the engine. So the steering was in the back of the vehicle, just like a forklift, and he reversed it. I forget what he used, how he did it, but he created a reverse steering system so that the steering did what it was supposed to do, but it was steered from underneath you. So it was like a real forklift. And then he had a big concrete piece on the back for counterbalance. And he was using this thing to lift cars and move them around. And he did it a few times. He was like, okay, it works. So just those kind of engineering things that today you hand something off to somebody and say, I want you to design this or figure this out. And they're like, I don't understand what you're asking me. But it's also their environment. They don't have that need for such things. So many things exist in that realm. James Smothers, I almost fainted today. TMI on MPD 967 Mustang standard upholstery set Was 182.95, is now 528.95. All Mustang parts are going through the roof with egg prices. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. What are they going to do if we just quit buying the stuff? You know, if we just don't buy it, they're going to have stuff sitting around. Dave Tyson, I went to school till I retired. Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think we all kind of do that in a way. Simone, night all. Good listening to the chat. Glad you're here, Simone. Have a good night. Lynn, I had a lady call me a Neanderthal because I was laughing about kids getting a participation trophy. I told her it's hard work to be the best or first. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. What was it? Not to quote Talladega Nights, because I wasn't a fan of that movie, but I think he said, if you're not first, you're last. As far as a competition goes, if you're not first, you're last. Nick Mass is checking in. Glad you're here, Nick. Nick Moss, I should say. Steve, I have those Harbor Freight lights stuck all over. Yep. Doyle, if I am here and you are here, isn't this our time? I don't see anything wrong with Little Feast on our time, Spicoli. You're right. Mr. Hand. So it was fun watching that movie. I haven't seen that in quite a while. Scarlet Fire. LOL. At Meekum, why do the winning bidders cheer for themselves when they were the fool to pay more than anyone else? I would feel embarrassed. Some guy paid $1 million for a 70 GTO Judge convertible. Yeah, that's insane. That is insane. I don't see how you can justify that at all. Unless you're using it as some sort of tax write-off. Why not? Yeah, it's an investment. It's a tax write-off. That's what they do with art. Like paintings, if people have, let's say, here's the crazy thing. If you take a piece of art, whatever it is, a painting, and this guy paints it, let's just say he's the son of somebody important, and suddenly he makes $500,000 for a painting that looks like a third grader did it. But he's an important person. His dad is an important person. And so he sells some paintings, because he's an artist, right? For $500,000. Wink, wink, nod, nod. We all know it's not worth anything like that. But the person that spent that money, they can go, oh, I paid this for this art. And then, let's just say that piece of art suddenly gets destroyed in a fire. And they had insured for, let's say, $1 million because it might go up in value. Oh, guess what? They just made $1 million or $500,000 off of some insurance company. I'm just saying, and they throw money around like that because it benefits somebody. Somehow, if you're paying $1 million for a 70 GTO Judge convertible, somebody is benefiting beyond that $1 million. There's some reason that they're doing that. Because we all know there's no way that car is worth. I would say maybe $100,000 if it was perfect. Maybe, yeah. Steve, I'd rather be a garbage collector than sit behind a desk any day. I can see him doing something useful. That is true. Yeah, there is value in actually seeing stuff happen, making stuff happen. Leonard, my dad was in the oil field industry in the 50s and 60s. And the tools they use, I've showed and had to explain what they were used for. Yeah, that's pretty common. There's stuff out there that people just don't understand. They don't have the mind for it. Bob, teaching adult students in tech school, I was alarmed at how little or no reading skills level there were among them. Yes. Now, I won't say that I'm an avid reader. Like, my wife, she can read a book or ebook or whatever almost constantly. She can just read and read and read and read and read and read. I can't do that. I can read a book. I probably could if I was really laid up in a wheelchair or something, where I couldn't do anything at all, I could probably read a book. But I get started. I'm like, I got stuff to do. I got to go, you know. But you're right. There are people out there who don't read well at all. Um, but again, sometimes that's not necessary, depending on what you're doing. Now, in you're saying in this case, teaching students, adult students in tech school, they have to read and comprehend and know what they're working on, how to fix it, how to follow the directions, and process those things. Um, but there's a lot of things out there that don't need those kind of skills. So, Dave Britton, second place is just the first loser, is what my brother always said. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's one thing. I like to play chess, and I always finish in first or second place, every time, every time. Doyle, the Bullet Mustang brought 3.64 million at Mecum. Yeah, that's another kind of crazy thing. Robert, I see the classic car prices doing the same thing that baseball cards did in the 90s. It will crash just like the card values did. Well, maybe we need to take advantage of it while they can. I don't see how they're, like you're talking about the upholstery costs going sky high. I don't know. It's going to make it more and more difficult to make these cars happen. Scarlett, the level of collective stupidity in this country is just scary as hell. Yeah, it's getting there. Nick, man, I don't understand who it is, but these things. Wait a minute, man, I just don't understand who it is that buy these things for such a bloated price tag. Yeah, I don't either. Shane, some people think a screwdriver is just vodka and orange juice. Yep. Terry, Barry, you read the body lines, gaps, etc. That is how I read also. Yeah. Well, yeah. I definitely do that. Rod, a plumber, just told me he is shocked how many men have no idea how to shut off the water or turn off a breaker. That is accurate. And let me tell you this. I have this channel. Y'all know I have this channel. It's my primary channel. And I also have Joe Daddy's Workshop. Okay. So that channel, I try to do stuff that's like, maybe it's welding, something small. Maybe it's building something out of wood. Maybe it's replacing the threshold on my garage door. Maybe it's putting in a quick set door latch. Maybe it's fixing my plumbing. Having a toilet issue and I fix my plumbing. There's so many things that and again, it's a generational thing that we just kind of learn through osmosis, right? We see our dad do it because they couldn't afford to pay somebody to come out and fix it. Or we may research it a little bit and get the information we need maybe online, and we just do the work. So I get so many people. Now, granted, turning off water isn't in the breaker. That's really, to me, that's low level stuff. Anybody should be able to figure that out. But like I put that quick set door lock in, that video is probably one of my most popular videos. And the reason for that is some of the people that write up the instructions don't know how to write instructions for people. They write it for themselves. They do it from an engineering standpoint. And, I do a visual thing on it and people are like, oh, now I get it. It's simple. It is simple. But a lot of times people just don't have that experience, that life experience. Mr. Mikey put a few of them to work block sanding a big Cadillac. Yeah. Ray says, true, Scarlett. Rick says, if you build it, they will come. Yeah. Pretty accurate. James. Liberal logic, government will take care of you, so skills are not required to wear VR goggle and work in the metaverse. Yeah, that is pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. Dave Britton, I have been finding that project cars from the 30s to the 50s have been going down in price. They're getting too expensive to restore, and the old guys like us that work on them are getting too old. That's not surprising. That is not surprising. Yeah, because and the market is changing for that. Like I have that Model A. It's a beautiful car, runs and drives. Is it worth 20,000? Maybe, maybe not. Um, and who's interested in it? Well, if somebody is interested in it, they either had some history with one of those cars, or they want to chop it up and turn it into a rat rod or hot rod or something like that, or they just don't care anymore. That's what you're running into is the generational. Who's going to be interested in something that's built 90 years ago? Nick, the CEO of a company has no idea what a casting machine does, or at least when he's looking at it at one, it's not really limited to the labor, unfortunately. Yeah, yeah, that's another thing you run into. Uh, Sometimes the people that manage the companies have no idea. All they know is numbers. Like how much can we sell this for, buy this for, whatever, and they don't know what the machine does. Yeah, I get that. Leonard, I redid my boat and did the upholstery myself and saved over $2,000. It ain't pretty, but it works. That's fine. That's good. Good for you. Nick, yeah, I won't lie. Tri-5s are kind of cheap relatively. If I had room, I would have already snagged one. Yeah, yeah. I've seen a couple like on Facebook Marketplace, and the price wasn't too bad for. I mean, it was a rust bucket. It was needed redone, but it wasn't too bad. And it was a hard top too. I prefer those. Steve, you have to love instructions written by Chinese. Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. James, cars from the 20s to the 50s were all manual shift, and driving a manual shift is a dying skill. That is another unfortunate thing. You were right about that. Ray, it's just like the kids and their car styles these days. Very few are working on classics, and I applaud those who do. I do too. I do too. You don't see it very often, and it's unfortunate. But I've run into a few that are into the classic cars, and I do appreciate them. And if they have a question, I try to help them out whenever I can. Dawn says, Leonard, that's what I say about Betsy. It ain't pretty, but it's in there. Yeah. Yep. There's always different levels of work that can be done by each of us. And I'm not one to shy away from something I haven't tried before because I want to see what happens. What if I can make it happen, if I can fix it. I've done that quite a few times. Quite a few times. Oh, here's a question for you. I get companies that approach me and they ask me to review a product or test things or whatever. So I've had Yes Welder send me welding machines. I've had Loki Thor send me the battery jump starters. I had Hulkman send me a jump starter. I had one company send me this little speaker that I use all the time. Let me ask you this. I have a company that contacted me that has offered me a product. Now, it doesn't necessarily fit directly with my videos, but I think it's kind of cool. Have you seen those the little engines that you can build, and basically you assemble the engine kit, and it has, in this case, has a little electric motor on it that makes it function. So you can see the pistons move, you can see rotation of the crankshaft, all those sort of things. So this company has offered me a choice between two little engines. And I don't know that this is correct to put on my channel or not. I've been debating on whether I want to do it. One of them happens to be a 5-cylinder radial engine, like it was in an airplane. So I think that's cool. And these things are like this big when it's final assembled. They're like this big. So the question is, should I do something like that? Is it worth making a video to demonstrate one of these things and the assembly process? Obviously, they want to sell these things, so I understand that, and they want me to say, hey, this is how you get blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But I think it would be interesting to build something like that, but I want to make sure it's okay, makes sense to put it on my channel. I don't like to put stuff on here that's not relatable. I know early on I had put some stuff on his channel that was not car stuff, and I shied away from that years and years ago. And now I that's why I have the other channel. But the company doesn't want me to put it on the other channel. They want it on this channel. I don't know if you've seen these things before. Sterling is the engine, is the company. See if I have a picture over here to show you. And again, it's a cool product, but I'm debating on whether I want to, where did I put it? Whether I want to do it or not. Yeah. So like, it's got a radial style engine with a propeller on it and everything. Kind of cool looking. And I did look up their videos, and this is it says workable mini diesel engine. Comes with a radiator on it, that sort of thing. But I don't know. Just a question for you. Sterling Kit is the name of the company. Stirling, if you want to look at it. So let's get back to the subject at hand. Nick, I saw a Studio Commander for sale locally a while back. I went to send you the info and couldn't find the ad anymore. They only wanted $4,000 for it, and it looked really solid. Yeah, it probably went pretty quick. He says, I think you would have loved it. Yeah. Ideally, I would like to have probably a 53 or 54. If I'm looking at one of those, a Commander, those two models I like in particular. The 55, I don't like the grille so much. The 53 and 54 have a similar grille. And then later on, like the 64, I have an affection for. Rick, all the kids want to build Hondas. Well, unfortunately, that's pretty much what they have available. So, Doyle, I talked to my grandson. He turned 16 in a couple of days. No interest in his driver's license. I can't understand it. It meant independence to me. Yes, I agree with that. I could not wait to get my driver's license. I mean, I was actually driving at 13 years old. I would drive from the junkyard to the farm to get milk. Yep, in a Pinto wagon with a 4-speed in it. Yeah. Leonard, I saw a sticker with 3 on the tree and had to explain what it meant. Go figure. Well, and in all fairness, Leonard, I try to think, when was the last 3 on the tree produced? There's a good trivia question. Who made the very last 3 on the tree? I know that the last 3 on the tree that I drove was a 69 Chevy truck. That was my grandfather's. I don't know how far into the future they carried that. I really don't. I'm guessing in the 70s, but I don't know. So I get what you're saying, but also there's a lot of things we just haven't seen. That just doesn't exist. Scarlett, I love my 69 Cutlass convertible cloned with a 442 with a 455 4-speed, and many car guys frown down on it because the VIN is Cutlass, not 442. What a bunch of jerks out there. Be glad I saved it. Yes. Yeah, build it your way. I was mentioning before that I had somebody potentially offer me a 69 Fastback. And my mind says I want a 69 Mach 1 Acapulco Blue 351 4-speed. I want that car. But that's what my heart wants. But my mind says, well, if you buy a 69 Mustang Fastback that's just a Fastback, sports roof, you can do whatever you want with it. I can make it look like a Mach 1. Who cares? I could make it whatever, road course car. I could do whatever I want with it. But anyway, glad you saved what you have. That's cool. Rod says, yes, do that video. Would be cool to see. Oh, well, okay. That's a yes. James, we had an engine machine shop that the owner was the best. Then one day he showed up with a boob job and wearing women's clothes and makeup. Still very skilled, but he went out of business in 2 years. Okay, that's odd. Leonard said, I'd say yes, it would make a great video. All right, there you go. Rick, if you're not going to do the review of the engine, somebody else will make the money and put it on the workshop channel. Yeah, they don't want it on the workshop channel, unfortunately. I asked about that specifically, and they were like, we want it on this channel. Nick, I think you should. It's no what? It's no Daddy's Garage, not Joe Daddy's Cars. It would honestly be entertaining, I think. Okay. Dawn, I had a Visible V8 when I was a kid. Maybe start a different channel for that stuff. Well, that's what the workshop channel is for. Yeah. Suburban Hooligan, I built one of those clear engine models when I was a kid. 4-cylinder Cosworth. It was pretty neat. Yeah, well, I had the Visible V8. Or at least my brother did. And I remember that video. Nick says it was a 53. Darn it. Rick, posted too soon. Put it on the garage channel. Yep. Crash Rider, would it benefit you monetarily? If not, use your time to make a video that does. Just my opinion. Well, here's the thing. The way this works normally, depending on the company that wants to give me something, I sign up for the affiliate program, right? Just like using Amazon. If people buy products off of Amazon and they use my link, Amazon will kick me a few pennies off each sale. It all adds up. So if I do something and I join their affiliate program, just like Yes Welder, I post discounts or codes with my Yes Welder videos. I get a percentage off of whatever sales that come from that. So I'm not saying somebody would be buying these kits very much. I don't know. I don't know what the potential is. But I have watched some of their videos, and some of these have had quite a lot of views. Quite a few views. The advantage to that is it gets people interested. So that's where I look at it. One, I could do the affiliate thing where if someone were to buy one, I get a little percentage. But two, I can also look at it as something to put on the channel that may generate views. And views is what counts. So I have to weigh that out. But yeah, you're right. I agree with what you're saying. And it is difficult. Shane, I like to explain to people the running operation of the rotary engine. The look of confusion is priceless. Yeah. Yeah. Dave Britton, 64 Studebaker Lark is close to my heart, as it was the first car I bombed around the field solo in. Little yellow V8 would really rip up the dirt. Yeah. Yeah, my brother had one of those. Rick, I've driven a 77 F-150 with a 3 on the tree. And Dave, I think I've seen in an 85 Dodge D100 with a 3 on the tree. So, 85, 95, 2005, 2015, 30, almost going on 40 years ago. So I don't know. Dawn gave my granddaughter a couple of driving lessons and came across a couple of stupid drivers which scared the pee-wads out of her. She lost interest. That's unfortunate. Leonard, Ford with the Maverick and the Granada. Yep. Roger, my neighbor had a 79-inch GMC with a 3 on the tree. So 79, I could see that. And we had an 85 up there. Dave, any more on the 69 Fastback? Well, I haven't gone to look at it yet. But I'm interested. Rick Stevenson, although I have also driven a 90s model Fiat with a 5 on the tree. Okay. And he says in Italy. Interesting. Steve, last 3 in the tree I drove was a 1970 Charger 318. Well, that's an odd combination. Who would put that in a Charger? Wow. That's okay. That's a winner. That's an oddball. Mr. Mikey, Gospel of Google said 79 Novas, Omega, Phoenix, last 3 on the tree. Okay, at least in a passenger car. So thank you for that. Ray, I believe in the build. I believe in the build it as you want it theology. Who cares if it's not popular? Yes. Scarlett, Wiki says, set them straight with the truth. The 79 Nova, Omega, and Phoenix were the final 3 on the tree cars sold new in the USA. So we had 2 good answers on that. Thank you. James, my 67 Mustang was a factory-born Raven Black, but while sanding car, the car was painted red 4 times. Most of its life was red. Don't know which color to choose. I like the black personally. I'm just not so much a fan of the red, but ultimately it comes down to what you want. Nick, hey, maybe you can invite a few of us over and try to assemble it while we shoot paintballs at you. You have 30 minutes or you plunge into a dunk tank. No. Michael Pagliarini, hello all, late to the party. I have a 54 Studebaker Land Cruiser at my shop, now to be restored. Not sure it's really worth it, but it pays the bills. Yeah, that's a good thing. Doyle, Scarlet, Fire, glad you saved it. Barry, as you know, I have a 69 Cutlass S Holiday Coupe. Yes. Dave Britton, the last 300 tree I drove was our 73 Ford F-150. And Steve, a few weeks back, I told you how they wanted 85 to 90 week lead time on seat covers for that 66 Satellite. Used to be $589 with 6-week lead, now $1,200. Oh my gosh. D. Lace, 68 Mustang, will they hold value in your opinion? Well, it depends on what the value is. That's the hard part. The market is crazy right now. And I'm with others who have said it's not going to maintain that. I don't see how it can maintain the numbers that they're putting out. Depending on what the car is. Now, if it's a plain Jane 68 Mustang Coupe, it's going to hold a certain value, but it's probably never going to go crazy. If it's a fastback, you're going to have more value. And if it has options, Shelby or GT or California Special, whatever, you're going to have, values based on that. But I can't say how long it's going to hold whatever the value currently is. Because we've seen it happen. You've seen waves in car pricing. So it's always going to change. Rick, were there any first-generation Mustangs produced with a column shift? I wonder about those that came with a bench seat. I actually think there were. Don't quote me on it, but I think there were. Nick, man, could you imagine if the guys in Bullitt were shifting a 3 on the tree through San Francisco? It would explain driving into the gas station at least. Yeah. Man, my voice is starting to go. Yeah, I think the Bullitt car had an 8-speed transmission because everywhere it went, it shifted. It's like, come on. Surely you jest. Yeah, they just were crazy with the shifting on those things, as they were in all those movies in the 70s. Everything was, every scene was shifting gears. So D-Lace, you agree? Okay. Man, I'm gonna have to call it a night. My throat is starting to get really sore. Yeah, and that doesn't feel good at all. So yeah, it's been an hour and a half. We've been doing pretty good. Dawn says downshifts are boring. Not necessarily. But I'm gonna have to call it a night. It's been good. We've had some good conversation, some good subject matter brought up, and like I said, the car prices are crazy. But what do you do? Ed Cucciarella, how many cops fell off the Charger in Bullitt? Quite a few. Quite a few. Okay. So I'll be back next Monday. That'll be the 23rd. hopefully I can get some more done on the Bronco this week. I'm fighting with the temperatures. It is what it is, but that's can't do anything about it. But things are coming along. We'll have a video out, part 4, coming up very soon. I also have another video to put out on putting a radiator in my daughter's Kia. So that's taken care of. But for now, I'm going to call it a night. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.